house was quiet, the kind of silence that presses on your chest and makes every sound echo twice as loud. The night was heavy, the hour late, and the dim light above the sink cast a pale glow on her tired face. Her hands trembled as she scrubbed the dishes, one after another, water running over cracked skin that bore the marks of endless days of labor. She thought she was alone, just her, the cold water, and the fragile clinking of plates. But from the shadowy hallway, a small, sleepy voice carried across the silence. "Daddy," the little boy whispered, tugging on his father's hand, eyes wide and innocent. "Daddy, she's still here." The man followed his son's gaze and froze at the sight before him. There she stood, shoulders slumped, body weary, yet still working long after everyone else had gone to bed. And in that moment, something inside him shifted. Before we dive deeper into this story, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the unseen struggles that people carry every day, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Stories. Your support helps us keep telling these heart-touching stories that remind us all what it means to be human. Her name was Emily. She was not a maid by choice, nor a woman who had ever imagined herself scrubbing strangers' plates at midnight. Once upon a time, she had been a girl with dreams. Dreams of studying nursing, of building a life where she could help others. But life had not been gentle. Her mother had died when she was only 16, and her father, broken and lost in grief, drifted away soon after, leaving Emily to fend for herself. She married young, clinging to the hope of family, only to be abandoned by the man she trusted most. Left with nothing but unpaid bills and an empty apartment, Emily carried on. She found work where she could, cleaning houses and restaurants, doing laundry, watching other people's children, while her own dreams withered quietly inside her. This particular house belonged to Daniel, a man who wore wealth like armor. A successful businessman, widowed for 3 years, Daniel had built his life around work, his young son Noah, and keeping everything under control. He was not unkind, but he was distant, guarded, a man who didn't easily let others in. To him, Emily was just someone who helped keep the house in order, someone he hardly noticed beyond the hours she was supposed to work. Yet tonight, something about seeing her standing there, long past midnight, washing dishes with quiet dignity, cracked a piece of that armor. He realized she had not been asked to stay this late. She stayed because she wanted to leave the kitchen spotless, to give more than what was expected, even when no one was watching. For Emily, the kitchen was more than a chore. It was a battlefield of thoughts. Every dish she scrubbed carried her worries, how she would pay rent this month, whether her worn-out shoes could last another week, and how long she could keep pushing through exhaustion before her body gave out. The water was freezing, the sponge rough, but she clung to the work like a lifeline, because as long as she worked, she wasn't forgotten. As long as she worked, she had purpose. Noah, the little boy, didn't see her as invisible. To him, Emily was a quiet, gentle presence in the house. She often hummed softly while folding laundry, sometimes slipping him a cookie from the tray before dinner, always kind when no one else was paying attention. That night, when he saw her still standing in the kitchen, his childlike heart didn't understand why she was still there. He only knew it wasn't fair. "Daddy, she's still here," he said again, louder this time, his small voice trembling with the weight of something he couldn't name. Daniel walked closer, watching Emily's shoulders stiffen when she realized she wasn't alone. She turned embarrassed, eyes dropping to the floor as if she'd done something wrong. She muttered an apology, saying she'd just finish quickly and be on her way. But Daniel didn't move. He studied the lines of exhaustion carved into her face, the faint redness in her eyes from holding back tears she thought no one could see. In that instant, he remembered his late wife, how she used to stay up after everyone went to bed, making sure Noah's clothes were folded, his lunches packed, his home in order, and his heart softened. The days that followed began to change subtly. Daniel started noticing her in ways he never had before. He noticed how she walked carefully to avoid waking the boy, how she patched her worn dress at the seam instead of buying a new one, how she sometimes skipped meals but always made sure Noah had a plate before she did. He noticed the calluses on her hands, the quiet strength in her eyes, the way she carried dignity even in hardship. Emily's life outside the mansion was far from easy. She lived in a small, damp apartment at the edge of town, where the walls smelled of mildew and the heating barely worked. Nights were cold and lonely, and her meals were often just bread and tea. Yet she never complained. She carried her struggles silently, refusing to let anyone pity her. But silence can be heavy, and inside her heart, she longed for someone, anyone, to simply see her. One evening, Noah asked his father a question that shook Daniel to his core. "Daddy, why does she always look so sad?" Daniel couldn't answer. He had always believed money could fix most problems, but he realized Emily's sadness wasn't about money alone. It was about loss, about loneliness, about a lifetime of carrying burdens she shouldn't have had to carry. For the first time, Daniel felt a responsibility that went beyond an employer's duty. He felt the stirring of compassion, of human connection. That week, he decided to do something small, yet meaningful. Instead of letting Emily leave late at night without eating, he began inviting her to sit with them for dinner. At first, she resisted, saying she didn't want to impose, but Noah's innocent insistence, his tiny hands pulling her chair out, broke down her hesitation. She sat, awkward and quiet, until laughter slowly returned to her lips. Noah told silly stories about school. Daniel shared moments of his business struggles, and Emily found herself part of something she had missed for so long, a family table. But healing isn't instant. Emily still carried doubts, still believed she was unworthy of kindness. She was used to being invisible, used to being taken for granted. When Daniel offered to drive her home one night, she refused, embarrassed of where she lived. When he tried to give her extra pay, she insisted she hadn't earned it. It took time, patience, and small acts of kindness to chip away at the wall she had built around her heart. The turning point came on a stormy night. Rain poured heavily, and the city streets were flooded. Emily arrived soaked to the bone, shivering, yet ready to work. Daniel stopped her at the door, gently but firmly telling her she didn't have to clean tonight, that she needed warmth, not work. He handed her a towel, offered her dry clothes, and told her she was part of this house, not just someone who worked in it. For the first time in years, Emily cried, not out of exhaustion, but out of being seen. From that night onward, the bond between them grew stronger. Daniel began to rely on her not just for help around the house, but for the comfort she brought into their lives. Noah adored her, clinging to her like a second mother. Emily, slowly but surely, allowed herself to dream again. She enrolled in evening classes for nursing, supported quietly by Daniel, who made sure she had the means without wounding her pride. He didn't see her as charity. He saw her as strength, as resilience, as someone who deserved every chance at happiness. Months passed, and the late nights of lonely dishwashing turned into evenings of shared laughter, quiet companionship, and renewed hope. Emily still worked hard, but now she carried light in her eyes. She still washed dishes sometimes, but not because she had to, because she wanted to, because the kitchen had become a place of love, not sorrow. And then one evening, much like the first, Noah once again tugged on his father's hand. "Daddy, she's still here," he said with a smile this time, pointing to Emily sitting at the table, helping him with homework. This time, Daniel knelt beside his son and whispered, "Yes, son. She's here to stay, dear friends. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the quiet strength of people like Emily, and in the power of kindness to change lives, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Stories. Every click helps spread compassion, and every share reminds someone they are not alone. And before we end, I'd love to hear from you. What part of Emily's journey moved you the most? Please comment below, because your words may inspire someone else who feels unseen tonight. Sometimes the simplest acts, washing dishes late at night, offering a seat at the table, or noticing someone's pain, can change everything. And sometimes the kindness we show is the very thing that saves us too.